Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing, will my ex come back? So before we get into the podcast, I just want to let you know about my website, dateme.tips. That's www.dateme.tips. Do you need help trying to save your crumbling relationship? Would you like advice on how to try and get your ex back? Or maybe you need an action plan on how to try and get a girlfriend or boyfriend. I provide email coaching on all of these subjects and can help your specific situation. Visit my website dateme.tips to find out more details. That's www.dateme.tips. You will also find on my site the books that I've written, my clothing range, and other information. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing, will my ex come back? So if you have been dumped and you want to try to get your ex back, you need to understand the crucial reasoning for why your ex dumped you, and that is that they lost emotional romantic attraction for you. So it doesn't really matter how it got to that point. It doesn't really matter what you were told was the reason for the breakup or what you assume was the reason for the breakup, because we can break it all the way down to the absolute fact that they lost romantic emotional attraction for you. And hence, now you understand that, now that seems clearer, you will understand that the reason that your ex might consider to come back to you one day is if they regain this romantic emotional attraction. It needs to regrow and become more in their mindset for them to get in touch. So now you understand exactly why they've dumped you, and now you understand what needs to be done. You can now see clearer the answer of, will my ex come back? Well, it depends, it depends on whether they will grow in their own mind emotional romantic attraction. So why would that happen? And can you do anything to influence this? And the answer is yes, okay? You can influence this. The reason it would happen is if they begin to miss you and if they begin to see value in you as a romantic interest. So the best way that you can try to influence this, the best way you can try to make this grow in your ex's mind is to become scarce, because scarcity creates value. That is why everything that is scarce on earth, for an example, a diamond, is very valuable to people because it is rare, it is scarce, okay? So you need to become scarce. So at this stage, you're probably thinking, well, if I've been dumped, then they are clearly not going to want to talk to me anyway. Why would they even want to reach out? Why would they even want to hear from me? And the facts are that they subconsciously will be assuming that you are going to reaffirm their value by being the type of person who is needy, who is desperate, who is begging, who is getting in touch, who is chasing them, okay? They're not going to be thinking this outwardly, but subconsciously they will be expecting you to reaffirm their value. So if you do the opposite of that, if you don't reaffirm their value, if you accept their decision with respect, and if you accept their decision with grace, so to speak, you don't want it to happen, you no doubt told them you don't want the relationship to end. And I always advise people in this position, if you can stay emotionally stable and tell your ex, tell your partner at the time, look, if you ever change your mind and want to chat again, if you ever want to get in touch and speak, then please do, okay? If you can just leave it like that, if you can leave it with them, that they know the door is open for them to get back in touch, then that is all you can do at this stage. You then need to implement my version of the no contact rule. So the no contact rule is something quite common that you can find online. There are many different versions of the no contact rule, and I believe that my version gives you the best possible chance of trying to get your ex back. So I suggest that you subscribe to my podcasts so that you can familiarise yourself with my version of a no contact rule. But as you can tell, with the clue being in the name, it is in essence a way of reaffirming your value by going into no contact, by not chasing your ex, by not looking low value, by not looking needy and desperate. There are lots of attributes towards my version of a no contact rule, lots of add-ons, but I suggest that you do to try to pull on the heartstrings of your ex. But ultimately, it does involve you not contacting your ex again unless they contact you first. And then at that stage, that is when you want to start rebuilding your connection and start to rebuild your relationship on a new, stronger foundation. But going back to the very question that this podcast is about, will my ex come back? Well, if you do everything right, okay, then in most instances, you will hear from your ex again. Okay, it could be days, weeks, months, it could be a year, and in some instances, it really never happens. Okay, I have to be honest with you, it doesn't always happen, but in most instances, it will happen if you do everything right. When your ex gets back in touch, that is when the hard work really begins, because there's a difference between your ex getting back in touch and you rekindling your relationship. I mean, there's a good chance, in fact, but when they do get back in touch, that you won't actually want this to happen anyway, because you might have moved on with your life, you might have met an even better connection. But let's pretend that you do want that to happen by the time they get back in touch, then you really need to be working hard on the next parts of the equation of trying to get your ex back. And you can find plenty of podcasts that I've done on that very subject. So again, please remember to subscribe. So, I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. I hope you realise that the fundamental fact of will your ex come back really lies on if they begin to see value in you again, if they start to miss you, and if they start to feel romantic, emotional attraction towards you again. That has been lost. It could be for a couple of main reasons. It was either because of growth within them that you didn't kind of match, or it's because of an action that you did, either a one-off or over time. But whatever the reasoning, it's created a loss of emotional romantic attraction. And for them to come back to you, even just in the fundamental level of getting back in touch, that needs to grow to a sufficient level. And you can grow that by implementing my version of a no contact rule. Once they get in touch, then you're into phase 2 of trying to get your ex back, if that is what you want to do at the time. It could take days, it could take weeks, it often takes months. I've known it take up to a year for somebody to get back in touch, and you just never know when it's going to happen. So if you have been dumped, if you want to try to get your ex back, I always tell you to push forward with your life, okay? You don't want to be waiting around for your ex. As I said, it doesn't always happen, but it will in most instances take place if you do everything right.